afternoon, everybody. It's really nice to see such a big crowd. And you ought to know that Gabriel had a bit to do with what you're going to experience today, because when the inevitable was upon him, he immediately went into a mode of designing this presentation for us. And one of those things that he wanted was for his friend Kathy, as you see in the program, to sing that song. And so we opened with that. Kathy couldn't be here. She's from New York. They go all the way back to when they met when they were students at Columbia College. And she has a few words that she sent with this song to share with you to get us started.
Cherished loves of Gabriel. Gabe was such a magnificent teacher, friend, and a stunningly beautiful human being. He had the rarest of hearts, massive and gracious. All were welcome with Gabe, and he always encouraged us to be our authentic selves. One of the few people I had no secrets with, and one of the most gorgeous souls I was blessed to grow up with, call my kin, and who saved my life countless times in every way someone could be saved. You should all know that Gabe was really concerned about all of us and how this whole process was affecting us, and how his departure was also going to affect us. We talked for hours at a time throughout this entire process, and he often shared that. And you should know that he loves all of you dearly, so dearly. So, to you, Gabe, the rarest of souls and hearts.
I must say that Kathy spent many hours on the phone to Gabe and surprised him by coming at Christmas time and visiting him. And so she was a real supportive person in all this, and we thank her for that. And now I'd like to turn the program over to our first speaker, Aaron.
Hi. Excuse me. This is going to be a lot more difficult than I think I thought it was going to be. You have a month and a half or so to prep for it, but we'll make it any easier. So I'll get through this as best I can. So first of all, thank you to Lance and Deborah for giving me the opportunity to come up here and say a few words today. As Lance said, for those of you who don't know, my name's Aaron. I met Gabe over 20 years ago at this point, when I was in college. And he was involved in every important moment of my life, from the time I was 19 until I was 35 or 36. I'm an only child. He was an only child, and he was by far the closest thing I've ever had to a brother. My first drink, my first marriage, my first child, my first divorce, and my second marriage all included Gabe. My oldest daughter, who's in the back of the room, her middle name is Gabriel, honoring him. Every high point and every low point in my life, he was my rock. He was somebody that I knew that no matter what the situation, no matter what it was that I was going through, that he was my guy. My mother passed away about 18 or 19 years ago now, and when that happened, he was living in Arizona. And I remember calling him from the hospital. He was the second phone call I made after I called my dad. And in no uncertain terms, he said, basically, get out here now, and we'll go live it up. And 2 days later, I was in Arizona, and the following 3 days were basically a blur of gambling and drinking in Vegas. his methods of support weren't always what you would consider conventional or responsible or safe or smart, but they were from the heart, and they usually worked. When he passed away, I heard the same thing from a number of people. And I wish I was a better friend, or I wish I had stayed in better contact with him. And I had plenty of those thoughts myself. Why didn't I make it a point to stay in touch with someone who was so important to myself and my family? I've spent a lot of time beating myself up over this over the last few weeks, and a lot of time thinking about it. As over the last 5 years or so, Gabe and I had really, for the most part, lost touch. Short, the occasional Facebook conversation, and this is kind of what I figured out. So, my favorite movie as a kid was the Disney movie Pete's Dragon. For those of you who don't know what the movie's about, it's a dragon named Elliot and a little boy named Pete. And Pete lives with his adopted family, who basically treat him like a slave. They make him do all the work, and he lives in the basement, etc. And Pete meets Elliot one day and sees the kind of conditions that Pete's living under, and Elliot makes the decision to save him. Some of the things that he does during the movie are questionable, but you can tell that they always have Pete's best interests in mind. And by the end of the movie, Pete's living with a couple who adopt him and treat him as their own, and protect him, and see him grows up and whatever. At this point, Elliot tells Pete that he has to move on, and he has to help somebody else who needed him, but that he would always keep an eye on. I think you can all kind of see where I'm going with this. I was Pete, and Gabe was my Elliot. He was in my life when I needed him the most. He made some ridiculous decisions, leading to some of the most memorable stories of my life. Things that I promised Lance that I wouldn't talk about today. Things that I can't and won't talk about in front of family and kids. I think collectively we've scarred Lance and Deborah enough over the last couple of months with our Gabe stories. So I'll leave those where they are. I will say that eventually I settled down. As I said earlier, I'm remarried and I've got a fantastic wife and we've got 4 fantastic children. I won't ever say that I don't or didn't need Gabe anymore, but there were people who needed him more, and that was Gabe. He was in your life when you needed him the most, and when you were in a better place, he moved on to someone else who needed him more. I'm convinced, and his friends, please don't take offense to this, but I am convinced this is why he lived his life with an endless stream of people who were in their mid-20s. That's when we're the most screwed up, and that's when we need someone in our lives to go through those experiences with until we get our own footing and figure out our own lives. He was everybody's Elliot. After spending a lot of time with Gabe's friends recently, people that until all this went down that I had never met previously, it's pretty amazing how we all have the same experiences. We all have the same stories. But those stories are from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It all depended on when he was in your life. But and because of that, it was easy to see how many people he touched and how many people's lives were better because Gabe was a part of it at one time or another. I always thought that there would be more time for us to reconnect, for him to get to know my other kids better, to be part of my life that he was when I was younger. Obviously it's a shame that won't happen now, but I also know that I wouldn't be where I am now or who I am now without having him in my life. I loved him like a brother. I miss him, and I hope he rests in peace. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Come on up. This is Justin, and I apologize for having misspelled his name on the program.
Everyone does. You didn't even Gabe. Hi everyone, my name is Justin. I met Gabe by happenstance 10 years ago, 11 years ago, in in a card shop. We didn't really ever intend to be what would become best of friends over the course of 10 years. And Aaron touched on a lot of this. Gabe was always this font, this rock. He was always willing to listen to your ideas because he was a writer, he was a storyteller, and that's what really started to get me to get closer to Gabe. And the more I got to know Gabe, the more I realized he was always like this. The more I heard like tales of Gabe from his friends, he was always this kind, gentle, noble, brave soul. And it never turned off. There was never a night where he was like kind of like, oh man, like he would never put you down. And we all have people in our lives that will try to limit us or try to tell us not to follow our dreams. And Gabe would always tell me to follow my dreams. And over the course of that decade that I knew Gabe, I started to. And I came in, a couple years ago, I came into a lab job working at one of the city colleges. And Gabe had fallen on some hard times. And before that, I had fallen on some hard times. And Gabe, he acted like a brother to me in those years. And one day I caught wind of a job opening that was a tutoring job. And I'm like, well, Gabe, you have a writing degree. Maybe you want to try your hand at this. I mean, you're always telling me to go do impulsive things. Maybe it's time for you to make a leap. And I had set up the interview for him that day. And I remember he was calling me that he couldn't find his tie and he was tearing his apartment apart. And I was actually riding my bike at the time and I couldn't hear him over the wind. And I'm like, just come out and do it. Like, you're always telling me to go do it. Like, follow your dreams. Like, you tell such beautiful stories. Let's live like it's a story. And he did. He went, he did it, he anteed up. And that day I remember walking down the hall and I saw him and he had his hiring packet. They hired him instantly. And the years following that, I'd never seen Gabe so driven and happy. And because of the community college system, we were able to touch people's lives from over 80 different countries. And because Gabe was bilingual, he was able to, they often paired him up with not just American students and people in normal college classes, but also immigrants that were fresh to America. Like immediately, like a couple weeks after they were in America, they were taking classes. And Gabe was one of their first points of contact. And I saw Gabe change after that. I saw him really trying to go for something. And Lance told me later it was the one job Gabe ever had that he loved. And, that didn't stop. But even when he was starting to have back pain and body pain, he still had that attitude. He never complained about it to people that didn't really know about it. He was always trying to be there for people, to be that rock for them. And Aaron said he was there in his life. I would hear the same thing from students that had Gabe as a tutor. He would remember things about the little challenges they were going through. He was always willing to give them that extra piece of advice, that next step. And I think Gabe really wanted people to break out of that mold and go for those types of things. That's the Gabe I knew, and even after the accident, that's the Gabe, he was still there. That's why I went to go see him every single week, because I wanted him to live a life like it's a story, because Gabe was a storyteller. That's the best memories I have of him. And if maybe to take something from this today, that's how I met him. That's how the rest of Gabe's friends met him. That's the person we knew. He was always there was always like this nexus of adventure around him, and that's how I'm gonna remember him. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Justin. As you can see, Gabe was very good at counseling people. He would give them advice, and his advice was always welcome, and as you can tell by his friends. And Gabe would counsel these folks and give advice, and he had one flaw in that, is that he rarely took his own advice. And I ran across this by Chief Tecumseh, and I was listening to it and thinking, Gabe could be telling one of his friends these things that Chief Tecumseh says, because Gabe could always say, well, you need to take charge of yourself. You need to listen. You guys know what I'm talking about. So imagine this is, what's nice about this is the kindness that you spoke of, and the honesty and the nobility and the fairness that are in these words. They were in my son. And he had a hard time seeing those same traits in the world. He felt that the world we have doesn't express enough nobility, enough honesty, enough decency. And so he tried to manifest those things in himself. So imagine Gabe as Chief Tecumseh. So live your life that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Trouble no one about their religion. Respect others in their view, and demand that they respect yours. Love your life, perfect your life, beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and its purpose to be in the service of your people. Prepare a noble death song for the day when you go over the great divide. Always give a word or a sign of salute when meeting or passing a friend, even a stranger. When in a lonely place, show respect to all people and grovel to none. When you arise in the morning, give thanks for the food and for the joy of living. If you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies only in yourself. When it comes your time to die, be not like those whose hearts are filled with the fear of death, so that when their time comes, they weep and pray for a little more time to live their lives over again in a different way. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home. Given that, we'd like to welcome our next speaker who has arrived. That would be Alan. Alan is a person who is a giver to other people. I think that's what Gabe admired so much in him. He was his roommate, and come on up, Alan, and say a few words.
Hello, everyone. Much like Aaron was talking about, I met Gabe in my mid-20s. I had just dropped out of college and moved back to Chicago, and have been in college ever since. I think one of the interesting things about Gabe that is most striking is that, much like most people, he was complex to the point of contradiction. We like to remember our friends by their greatest qualities, but Gabe was a joker, a trickster, a troll in modern lingo. He liked to push people's buttons and make you do things that weren't quite what you ought to be doing with your life at the time, just so he could have life. And there was a quality about the way he did it that made sure that by the end of it you were laughing too. You never regretted the long nights of irresponsible drinking or the trips to places you hadn't imagined going. And he was unapologetic in it. He was like, yes, I want you to feel awful and wretched and hungover the next day. You're supposed to. And I think to the people who maybe knew him just in passing, that seems like a horrible negative trait. That why would you stay with a friend who puts you through these horrible things? But it's because despite all of the trials he had, he always, or maybe because of those trials, he always thought about other people, the people that were closest to him that he loved. When I met him, it was about the same time that two women came into his life. One was named Susan, and he dated her for a little while. She was very good to him, but not very good for him. So they split. And the other one was there for the entire rest of his life. Her name is Hendrix. She was a Beagle Basset Hound mix. She had these big floppy ears, and she was the stupidest, sweetest dog you could ever hope for. And when Gabe went into the hospital and knew that he wasn't going to be coming out anytime soon, he wasn't worried about what was going to happen to his stuff. He wasn't worried about his job. He was trying to find a home for his dog. He wanted to make sure that he could still pay me rent for the room he wasn't occupying anymore. And these were things that should not have even been anywhere in his mind to be worried about. But that's always what he did. He's always concerned with others, because I think sometimes worrying about his own self was a bit painful. So he worked really hard to make sure that everybody who he gave a hard time to, he also gave great love to. And so that's what I will always remember. Thank you.
Thanks so much. We'd like to open it up now to some people that might want to say something additional. We have a bit more of a program to go, so if your comments are brief and to the heart, we'd love to have whoever wants to come up and speak. Dory, would you like to come up? Okay.
Wow, hearing from these guys about what it was like when he was in his, when they were in their 20s, I think I was the same way. I think I would have loved to be around Gabe then. I didn't know Gabe very well, but after hearing from these guys, I know him a lot better. And I'm really struck by what they say about his caring about other people. I had a couple brief encounters with him, but I want to tell you, they left a great impression on me. And in a profound way, really. This past year, watching Deborah and Lance go through what they went through, it was a very difficult journey for them. But while it was difficult, I saw the love and the caring that they had for him, and that was wonderful to be around. I had the privilege of helping them out with a very, very small thing, and Gabe and his family. And I know they appreciate it, but I don't think they realize how much it meant to me. And just that small experience I had of Gabe really made me see him as the wonderful and caring guy that his friends described. I'm sure you all know what his condition was. It couldn't have been pleasant for him to have me come and invade his space, but he was kind to me and tolerant of me, and he was funny, and yeah, he was everything you would hope he would be. And I would say that the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. But one thing that I think, when somebody is in that situation in their life, when they really need somebody to help them, it's almost like a gift they give to you. I think you guys gave a gift to Gabe. When he would be there for you, it probably gave him more than maybe even you got, because I know that was true for me. So I'll finish by saying that Gabe gave a gift to me, and I will remember it all my life, and I thank him for that.
Is there anyone else? One of his friends, I understand somebody wanted to say something. Anybody? Well, you should know that Gabe's mother died when he was 20 years old of pancreatic cancer. Her name was Ann Draper. And his next mother is in the audience today. And she didn't hesitate to take Gabe into her heart. So I'd like Deborah, my wife, to come up and say what she'd like to say. Be brave.
Who does the Valium? Don't get nervous, it's a big font. Like the Academy Award winners tonight. Okay, you guys talked about Gabe as a man, and I'd like to talk about Gabe as a boy. Those of you who know me, those of you who know me, am I close enough? Who know me well, know that it was always my intention to lead a child-free life. In fact, I gave my 2.2 allotment to my brother and sister at a rather early age, and they have proven to be masters of raising children, as evidenced by my, wherever they are, niece who's not here, my nephews, and big shout out to Blake and Anthony, who in North Carolina couldn't be here. Anyway, but sometimes often life takes you in directions that you least expect. And I fell in love with Lance 36 years ago, almost. And Lance came with Gabe. Now I'm the first to admit that I was woefully unprepared to deal with a rambunctious 6-year-old boy in a 1-bedroom apartment. But we did okay the 4 to 5 times a year that he would come visit us, and then we would go out to see him in New Hampshire where he lived with his mom. When he came to Chicago, we would do all the kids stuff, Cub games, the beach, museums, Chuck E. Cheese. And Gabe hated to walk as a child. He just hated it. He probably hated it as an adult too, right? Right, yeah. And he would always say, in fact, he used to say, there should be moving sidewalks everywhere. Wouldn't that be the coolest? I'm like, yeah, all right. And he'd say, well, why can't we take the car? I'd say, because we live in the city, we don't take the car out. He'd say, well, how much, no matter where, if we were just a half a block into the walk, he'd say, well, how much farther? I'm tired. And so we started saying, it's just around the corner. It's just another block. And pretty soon he realized, we were putting him on. But he was good-natured about it, although he continued to complain. But there was always a good payoff at the other end, And then on the way back, there was always ice cream at home, so, it was a motivator. Lance and I have sort of a silly thing that we used to say to each other every day. Well, okay, we still do it. But anyway, we would say, have I told you I love you yet today? So one morning I got up and I went in the living room where Gabe would sleep on the couch, and he greeted me with, have I told you I love you yet today? So from then on, that was how the three of us would greet each other, at least until Gabe got a little older and probably thought it was too corny. But it was nice while it lasted. Besides his visits to Chicago, and our visits out east, we also took Gabe on a few of Lance's road trips when he was on tour. And I don't know, when Gabe was in his teens, we were talking about some of those trips. And we were talking about when we took him skiing in Colorado. And he said, I don't remember that. I'm like, and I got a little irritated because I thought it was kind of a big deal taking him skiing, But he had no memory of it at all. So I started making up vacations. And I said, well, but you do remember the time we went to Disney World, right? And Catherine then goes, I've never been to Disney World. And I said, oh my God, you were about 8, you were so cute, you got the little Mickey ears, and you were so excited to meet Mickey, and you went on all the rides, you were big enough, and then Lance got in and threw in all, we were just elaborating all kinds of things about the trip. And he's like, got this look like, yeah, I did go. And then, of course, and he says, because Gabe was, a smart guy, and he said, yeah, well, where are the pictures? And I said, oh, well, this was the days of film. And I said, oh, your father opened the camera and exposed the film. We lost all the pictures. Well, then we probably carried it too far, because then we talked about vacations to Europe and cruises, and, of course, they knew we were kidding. But sometime later, he said that he did indeed remember the skiing trip, particularly jumping on his father after he had separated a rib. Gabe loved to wrestle, probably, right? Wasn't that a huge thing? He loved wrestling. we were staying in somebody's home, and the three of us were in sleeping bags in front of the fire. And Gabe spent the better part of the night doing full body slams on his father and just delighting in hearing him scream in pain. So, okay. See, right? Torturing people, right? When Gabe first came into my life, he would introduce me to his friends as, "This is my dad's wife." And then sometime later, it was, "This is my stepmom." And then I think when we went up to see him in college out east, it was just, "These are my parents." And then it was just one day, "This is my mom." I don't know how I came to earn that title, but I'm honored and proud to be Gabe's other mom, and I will miss him. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know if I can get through this. Gabe had one more request. We used to play together, as you'll see by those pictures. And I would play, and he would sing in this particular song, and he made it very clear that he wanted me to sing this song on this occasion. It was his favorite one to sing while I played. And he thinks it would be very appropriate to the occasion. I went down to old Joe's bar room on the corner by the square. They were serving up the drinks as usual, and the usual crowd was there. On my left stood old Joe McKinney. His eyes, they were bloodshot red. He stepped up to that transom, and these are the words that he said. I've been down to St. James Infirmary, saw my baby lying there. She was stretched out on a long white table, so cool, so meek and so fair. Let her go, God bless her. Wherever she may be, she can search this whole wide world over. She ain't never gonna find another sweet man like me. Stetson hat. Put a $20 gold piece on my watch chain, so all my friends will know that I was standing pat. And I want 6 crap shooting pallbearers. Give me a pretty girl to sing me a song. I want a red hot jazz band playing behind my hearse wagon, and we'll raise hell as we march along. Now that you've heard my story, ask me another drink of that booze, and if anyone they should ask you, tell them I died of the gambler's blues. Yes, if anyone they should ask you, tell them I died of the gambler's blues. Done for Gabe, you know. So that inspired me. As many of you know, I write songs to get everything out in front of me where I can deal with it. And so I wrote this song for Gabe because I told him, I'll sing your song, which I just did. And that inspired me to write this song. And I'm going to ask Gabe to help me get through it. I see the crack in the mirror, reflections of a shattered world, but I cannot deny things are clearer than they were before. Been through the fires that misery brings, I swam the river of no regret, no need to labor over things that don't matter anymore. 'Cause what's done is done and what's gone is gone, but the memories of the good times linger on. I don't know where you are on this starless night, but I'll sing your song. I'll sing your song. You stored a little love from that New York girl. She was a blessing in disguise. And you traveled to the other side of the world just looking for fun. Some felt at home in your kindness, while others packed up and moved on. You suffered from your own special blindness, but it doesn't matter none. 'Cause what's done is done and what's gone is gone, but the memories of the good times linger on. I don't know where you are on this starless night, but I'll sing your song. I'll sing your song. You were broken in body and spirit, had demons and tortures all around, living every day in the fear it might never end. But the angel of mercy came at last. That single drop of water merged back into the sea, and the pain is in the past, and silence is your best friend. What's done is done, what's gone is gone, but the memories of the good times linger on. I don't know where you are on this starless night, but I'll sing your song. I'll sing your song. I'll sing your song. As Gabe reached the end more, we spent a lot of time talking about spiritual things. And he asked me to share a lot of my Buddhist practice with him, my Zen practice. He asked me, what do Zen Buddhists think about what comes afterwards? And I said, I can't tell you that because I'm not standing at the door. You are. So I shared some things with him that he took comfort in. And one of those things is Master Hakuin's chant in praise of Zazen. Zazen meaning sitting meditation. And I want to make this accessible to everyone in the room. And so I wanted you to substitute some words that are in the chant for words that might work better for you. And the word Buddha, it means a person, but it also means the divine nature that you have in you, or how you manifest God, if that works for you. So when you hear the word Buddha, a person who is in touch with their own divinity is a Buddha. The other term, another term is zazen or samadhi. You can use the word prayer if that works for you. Those two words mean meditation in Buddhism, but it also, if you use prayer to make sense of your world, you can substitute, when those words come up, the word prayer. And the word nirvana is not a place, it is a state of mind. I'm going to ring this gong 3 times to get us into this silent place, and I will recite these words that gave comfort. And then I will ring them three times to take us out of that place at the end. Okay? From the very beginning, all beings are Buddha. Like water and ice, without water, no ice. Outside us, no Buddhas. How near the truth, yet how far we seek. Like one in water, crying I thirst. Like a child of rich birth, wandering poor in this earth, we endlessly circle the 6 worlds. The cause of our sorrow is ego delusion. From dark path to dark path, we've wandered in darkness. How can we be free from birth and death? The gateway to freedom is Zazen Samadhi. Beyond exaltation, beyond all our praises, the pure Mahayana. Upholding the precepts, repentance and giving, the countless good deeds and the way of right living, all come from Zazen. Thus one true Samadhi extinguishes evil, it purifies karma, dissolving obstructions. Then where are the dark paths to lead us astray? The pure lotus land is not far away. Hearing this truth, heart humble and grateful, to praise and embrace it, to practice its wisdom, brings unending blessings, brings mountains of merit. And when we turn inward and prove our true nature, that true self is no self, our own self is no self, we go beyond ego and past clever words. Then the gate to the oneness of cause and effect is thrown open. Not 2 and not 3, straight ahead runs the way. Our form now being no form, and going and returning, we never leave home. Our thought now being no thought, our dancing and songs are the voice of the Dharma. How vast is the heaven of boundless samadhi, how bright and transparent the moonlight of wisdom. What is there outside us? What is there we lack? Nirvana is openly shown to our eyes. This earth where we stand is the pure lotus land, and this very body, the body of Buddha. Thank you again for coming, and now join us for some food and some conversation. Thank you so much. So let's break out the food.
Twice as busy. Well,
It's basically